following podcast contains possibly triggering material and strong language. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Ride the Rebellion podcast and Craft Show Digital. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only.
Welcome to the Not Sean Ryan Show. This is going to be a marathon. Am I on the right camera? Yes, a marathon episode. I've been recording for a while. Ride Rebellion podcast. We open the show however we want to open the show because you can't tell us what to do. I'm Drew Hall. I'm one of the hosts, and with me is the man that puts the ump in jump. South Alabama's very own Dr. J.
Wow, I don't know where that went or how it got there, but I'm here. We're here. We're all here.
We're here, and we have another guest in studio because that's what we do now is we bring guests in, make them sit in the chair. They always marvel. I like to switch the records out. He got Ocean's 12 because I feel like he pulls heists with his mind and his words. Before we get to him, we don't really have sponsors anymore. They all dropped us, just so you guys know. Toby called us. He cussed us out, said you guys are absolute shitbags. I'll never work with you again. So he's gone.
But their companies are beautiful, fantastic, and they'll do great things for you.
Yeah,
you reach out.
Yeah, every one of our sponsors has been vetted by Doge. That's the only political thing I'll say. No, but Dale, didn't we have somebody request? They have a little event coming up, and I'll let you read it.
They didn't request. We said we would do it for them. Let me go ahead and read it so I don't get it wrong. But the ladies from Last, which are in Louisiana, strongly connected to Toby as well. They're going to have a Rise and Ride Women's Bike Day 2025. And it is April 25th through the 26th. They got some pretty sweet events planned. Maybe that's not the real name, but that was the name I was given. So go ahead and put it on your calendar, though, if you're a woman or if you identify as a woman or if you want to come ride bikes with women. I
don't know if that's appropriate. The ride bikes with women part. Yeah, why? I don't care if you identify. That's your business. But I'm talking about because there's a lot of cringers in the former mountain bike space. That's guys. So everyone knows that's why we left. There's so many cringers.
Yeah.
The primary of those happens to live in Birmingham. Shout out to you. You know who you are. There's like 4 or 5 of them that are going to question and take pride in that statement. We're not going to be specific. With us in the studio today is a guy that I'll tell you how I first met him. I met him doing a shoot. I don't know if he remembers. I bet he doesn't. Do you know how we met?
At the Cancer Center.
Dang, he got it right.
Yeah.
We were doing a shoot for a client of ours, and he walked up and we started talking. I was like, this guy's really nice. And then he did what all voiceover people do, which anybody in the industry that has worked at this, we get lots of solicitation from voiceover people. I don't know why your people do that, but your people do a lot of solicitation.
It's actually a script. We're just reading off of it.
There's a shared union clause. Anyway, we started talking. He said, hey, I do some voiceover stuff. And then we ended up meeting and hanging out. We had a good time. And then from that point, he came on set a few times and worked with us. Turns out he's very good at voiceover. Wrote one of the funniest bits like taglines we've ever had. Wrote a spot that was really hilarious for a client. Client went a different direction. It wasn't his fault. That's a true story. But the real ethnic thing is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
That's all you. I give you all the credit.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was great. And it's odd hearing you being described as a voiceover person because about the time that I had met you was kind of the first time that I had ever really dove into it. That was not yeah, absolutely. I mean, my agent in New York had sent me on 2 or 3 voiceover auditions, but that was it. And so when I met you, I had just built out the booth and was really kind of learning on the fly.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
I mean, I paid a premium for you learning on my dime.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. But I had a friend of mine who approached me about recording his, he had a children's fantasy novel, and we decided we were going to put it as a book on tape. And so I really worked out all the kinks through the 15 chapters of that book. So I learned it all on that book. And that was we just did it as a labor of love. So by the time, I think I actually got hired by you, I had it all I had it all figured out. Come on, man. You know.
I thought it was funny. I actually the other day, I think it was because you did me a favor recently, and I owe you a tremendous amount. And I'm going to tell that story because I think it's there's nothing funny about it, but there is if you're a Larry David fan. And I think I told you this maybe you don't remember. You'd had a couple of glasses, but
Of water.
But I was listening to, you did this thing for me for the Addies, which is the advertising awards, and Peyton did the voice, and I was listening to his voice, and I was like, Peyton really needs to do some book narration, because like I had listened to, during the pandemic, I really got into books on tape because I would just go out and walk and just listen. And so I was listening to Jack Carr's books, which are really they're really violent. They made a TV show. I forget what it's called. What's the one with the Chris Pratt and he murders the dude with a hatchet? It's really violent. Anyway, good.
That's a good show.
Yeah, books are even better. But the guy that reads the books, and it may be Jack Carr that reads them, but his voice was similar to Peyton's. I was like, man, it's just you have a very good cadence when you get into that narration mode, not just voiceover character mode, but just the narration side. I was like, God, that's pretty solid. So I'm using this podcast to replace you with AI.
Yeah. Right. Well, then you're getting the last laugh. You really are. You know, it's ironic. When I first started doing voiceover, I signed up for one of those pay for play services. Oh, yeah. If for those of y'all who don't know, there's a Voices 1, 2, 3 is one of them. And basically the level that you join at, whatever membership level you join at, dictates how soon you get to respond to these auditions. Right?
Oh, I didn't realize that. I've only been on the client side of that.
Yeah. And so there are all these different tiers. And, if you're dropping $2,000 for the year, you're going to get access to much more advantageous parts, right? And it's not thousands and thousands of people submitting along with you, right? Well, when I first signed on, there were all these things that were, auditions to just read words, and like one of them I remember distinctly was, just describe yourself as a clown, and your makeup in detail. They were basically generating AI models of voices.
Oh, that's not right.
I know. And they were undercutting. Not only were they not paying union rates, so they were undercutting the business for that, but they also were doing it to replace every voiceover artist in the country.
So it's interesting. I was talking to my buddy that's over at Universal. There's a movie that's I think it's called The Brutalist, right? And it has Adrian Brody and his nose, and it has
guest star.
No, they got a bunch of SAG awards.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. It's controversial, and this is why. So the director or somebody in the pipeline did not like. So apparently there's an accent in the movie. So I don't know where the characters are. They're foreign and they come to the US or something like that. And so whoever's playing that character had an accent, this actor. They did not like the accent. So they actually replaced his entire performance with his voice with a better accent. Now, he didn't appreciate that because as the actor, he said he took away my performance, and it's become a big thing. So like it was going to be the front runner for like all these Academy Awards, and it won a bunch of SAG Awards or whatever. But there's a controversy behind it because they're questioning whether or not you can have this AI voice replacement that, although arguably to their eyes, enhanced the movie, shaped fake the course of it.
It's a pet. It's a performance enhancing dialogue.
Yeah.
It's no different than Barry Bonds, really. There's as the credits are rolling up at the end, there's an asterisk by his name, and it just goes on.
Very done. Well done. Bringing it back to sports.
Okay.
Good for you. You got some sports.
Men.
Yeah, that's right.
Poor Barry.
Yeah. So in case y'all don't know, so Peyton, I'll let you explain it, but I was bringing up the voiceover thing to say, I did not know that about you. I did not know the rest of your history. I only knew that as Peyton. He's a great guy. He came and worked as a PA. He doesn't really care. He just likes to work, and he's good. And now we consider him family amongst the craft show crew. But then Dale's like, dude, because this is what Dale does. In case y'all don't know, this mofo.
I am that dude guy.
Well, there's two things that happen. One we can say publicly, one we won't. But Dale turns around and says, I like to leave little crumbs. Yeah. Dale's like, did you know Peyton was a stand-up comedian? I was like, what? This is like after knowing you you worked with me and I had no idea of any of this. You don't lead with it.
Right.
You're pretty straightforward, humble guy about stuff. But so part of it is not to say that we could finally can be Joe Rogan now. We can beat Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
We can have a whole podcast where we talk about comedian shit that no one understands.
Is it even worth beating him now that he's not number one, though? I
Who's
mean,
number one?
Probably a crime podcast. Has to be.
no,
crime.
somebody jumped ahead of him in the past 2 weeks.
Oh.
Mhm.
Is it Sean Ryan?
No.
No,
That dude's are 5 hours long.
oh, I
legit.
can't believe I'm going to blank on this right now. But anyways,
Obviously, it's not that cool.
What if it's like a shorter podcast too? It's like a 30-minute podcast as opposed to Joe Rogan's like 6-hour marathon.
right.
Anyway, so tell us about, like, I don't know anything about that. Like, you're a stand-up comedian. You grew up here.
Uh-huh.
Just give us the little Peyton story.
Yeah. So that was always the goal. Like the worst ass whooping I ever got as a kid. A neighbor had lent me a copy of Eddie Murphy's Raw, and I was about 7 or 8. And I watched it while my parents were at work and left it in the VCR, forgot to take it out, and got my ass whooped. But I knew like that was always the goal. So I graduated high school. I went up to Auburn, got my BFA in theater, or theater in Auburn, Alabama.
That's correct.
And then as soon as I graduated, moved up to New York to start doing stand-up, and started off, barking or passing out flyers in the street. And that's what you would do for stage time, because I mean, you could do open mics, but there's no way forward with that. It's, that if you say something, it's just comedians in the audience. So by passing out tickets, you got in front of a live audience. And so I did that for about 3 years.
Whoa, wait,
really,
can we hold on though, because to me that's fast. So like I've been to Vegas, and then there's the guys that do the little flicky flicks,
right?
Doing the little flicky flick, getting people's
everybody
attention.
had it's like that Seinfeld episode, like the guy that twirls the umbrella. Everybody has like a little way that they do it. I had a way that I did it, and yeah, I mean, there was a comedy club on 46th between 8th and 9th called Ha Comedy Club that was run by a man named Anthony DiNapoli, who there was a write-up on me in the New Yorker where the author of that article described him as a cross between Tony Soprano and Fred Flintstone.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But what we would do, we would show up there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. All the, young, hungry comedians show up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd get a stack of tickets and initial the back of them. And there were 2 showrooms, an upstairs and a downstairs. And starting at 6:30, they do the downstairs room, 7:30 upstairs, 8:30 downstairs, 9:30 upstairs. So on a weekend, you could do 6-7 shows a night, and you were getting $2 for every person that brought in your ticket. So as a 23, 24-year-old comedian, I mean, this was so amazing, right? Like I would put, $150 in my pocket, get to do 6 shows in front of a live audience. And then, then we'd hit there was a little Irish pub next door that we'd go to. Awesome time. Then, things started to develop after that. You stand up is a lot like every time you reach a milestone, you don't go back, right? So you have to draw a line in the sand. I'm not going to bark anymore. I'm not going to pass out flyers anymore. I'm not going to do open mics anymore. I'm only going to pass out flyers in front to get a real crowd. Okay. I'm not going to bark anymore. I'm only going to do guest spots, which is where you perform for free, but you don't have to. And then I'm not going to do guest spots anymore. I'm only doing paid spots. Right. And so there are all these steps that you take. And I was able to move up it pretty quick. And I started with some awesome people. Nate Bargatze and I started together.
Whoa. He's big now. Like I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense. I had no idea who he was. My wife's obsessed. Thinks he's the funniest guy in the world.
He's great.
He's really clean. That's his aim.
Yeah.
You probably can't talk about the truths because we don't want to ruin
No,
names.
I mean, he is that, he's just a genuine guy. He's awesome. He's an awesome guy. He came here to the Sanger and hooked my wife and I up with tickets to it, and ended up putting us in that like Abraham Lincoln box, and then like proceeded to fuck with us the whole time we were up there. Like, look at these bougie guys up here, it's like,
brilliant.
And then we got to go, we went to his bus afterwards. A guy opening up for him, Graham Kay, another very funny Canadian comedian.
Graham Kay is actually,
yeah. And so the two of them, we went down hanging out at the bus, and I can honestly say the hardest moment of my adult life, My mother was to pass away not too long after that. So up to that point,
Right.
sorry, Mom, I'm not trying to step on you here, but at that moment, watching that bus drive away was really hard, man. It was so hard because I had done all the hard part, and just when it was getting good, and there's not enough time in the day to like go into it, but it ended up, I have an ex-wife, and as soon as we got married, she wanted to go back to LA. So happy wife, happy life. I left New York right when things were getting good. We divorced soon thereafter. I stayed in LA longer than I should have. By the time I moved back to New York, my mom called me. And she was having some issues, and I was like Forrest Gump, when he, Forrest, your mama's sick, and he jumps off the boat and starts swimming.
Right.
I packed up my car that night, and the next morning drove home, and if it didn't fit in my car, it didn't come with me. And I had a gig in Birmingham at the Stardome the next weekend, so I was like, my lease was expiring in New York, so I drove all the way home, and I've been down here since.
So it's interesting because we talk about this a lot. Like, did you happen to listen to the first of this series that we started doing?
I hadn't listened to one since we did that project out at Westminster.
Okay.
Like somewhere
It's been
around.
a while. All
yeah.
Right, so it's funny because we had a whole episode, the very first one when we brought the show back, we retooled it and did whatever.
Yeah.
And we both talked about that exact same thing. It's very it's interesting because you can apply it to sports. I applied it to being a filmmaker. Like, I hit my wall. I talked about the challenges, like the darkness and the things that I hit. And I think it's something that people don't talk about. Certainly, I think most people understand there's a stigma that comedians all have kind of a dark, challenging, or at least that's the perception of it. Maybe not for Nate, but for others. But I don't think people realize, like, if you're a performer of any capacity, whether it's sports or it's acting or stand-up, because that's a performance, or if it's directing, there is a weird part of it. Every show, you probably put a little piece of your soul into it.
100%.
And then at some point, it hurts when you're like, dude, it's like a jar, and you filled this jar up with stuff, and you're like, oh, I've made it to the top. And then somebody comes along and just knocks that jar right off the table, and it shatters on the ground. Now you can't put your soul back in because it only comes out. You can't put it back. So you can rebuild it. You can try and build more. I just think it's fascinating because I didn't know from your angle that same thing. I've been in the same boat where the tour bus pulls away, and you're like, God bless it. I don't know.
But does it leave you with another respect for like Nate because like how much work it took to get there?
My respect for Nate is inherent at any point, but yeah, well, yeah, in a lot of ways, but my self-centeredness would bring it back to like my own failure, I suppose. Whether it was, seemingly forced on me, but I wouldn't change it because I was able to be down here and spend the reason I came down is thinking in my head, okay, if my mom's really sick, I'll be there for her. If she's not, I've been gone for a long time because I was doing stand-up for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, it was my thing. Like,
so you were a professional at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was making my living doing it. I was touring, I was on the road all the time. It was what I did. It was my identity as well. And going back to your point about the glass shattering, when I first moved back, the first job that I got was as a bartender at a pizza place / bar over in Fairhope. And it was right when, Alabama had passed all of these tax breaks to bring film to the state of Alabama. And our bar where I was bartending, fresh back from New York, was the hangout for some film that Vince Vaughn was filming here.
Yeah, that's a little, the incentives have been here, but yeah.
Right. But I was new into it. And so all of a sudden they're like Hollywood had come, but I was on the other side of the bar this time.
Yeah.
And having to serve them their drinks and take them their fucking pizza. I don't know if y'all curse on here.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Take them their pizza. I mean, it was so hard. And I found myself needing to tell them every time, like, hey, I'm one of you. This isn't me. Dude, I'm one of y'all.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I do that every time I walk into a gym where there's a basketball.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
anytime there's a coach, like, give me that ball. Let me show you real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah.
Just prove it. Let me just prove it real quick.
Yeah, let me just show y'all I'm not like the rest of them.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yes.
Okay.
It's that desperation moment though, because you're just like, the problem is you're not on the other side. It's the same thing I've dealt with. Like it's the identity crisis.
It
like,
is.
You don't get it. I'm one of us. Well, I'm
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
one of us.
Yeah.
And you're not.
I'm not a civilian. You know, like I'm not normal. Oh my God, it hurts so bad. And
Yeah.
part of the reason you were saying like the humble part, it's, you know, that I had never brought that up to you. And it's because I had to work on that, because I found myself so desperately needing to weave it into a conversation for self-validation.
Oh, I've been there, bro.
And so, you know, it was a conscious effort to eradicate that from my vocabulary. Now, on the other side of it, the leg up, the opportunities and the camaraderie that Craft Show and also Dennis Gold, you know, over at Soundworks. So when I found these little bastions of talent and of creativity, that's why I have always been so eager to jump at any opportunity to spend time with y'all, is because there is such a void in my who I am and what I want. And so the opportunity to be a part of this team, which stand up is an amazing thing. And I'll always do it to some degree. I recently started doing shows again.
Oh,
Yeah. But you know, when you're not trying to make a living at it, it's actually fun. I forgot.
Yeah.
Right. But,
So you broke the barrier, went backwards.
I did. I did,
are you
man.
barking somewhere? Can we find you barking along the
Even
Dolphin
worse than
Street?
that, I went down a step and did the open mics, man. I swallowed my pride one night. I was like, I got to do this, man. I just got to get on
Wait a
stage.
second.
He probably
hold
destroyed
on, hold on.
Bug.
You sandbagging sons of bees. This dude right here, I'll put him on camera while I talk. So in mountain bike racing, there are categories of racing. And Dale happens to be just like you with comedy. Dale is a natural athlete. You're a natural comedian. You just have it in you. Right?
Yeah.
So we go to races, and there've been a few times that Dale has entered class 3, which is for the people like me that are fat and handicapped. And we're
Well,
just
I'm
doing
fat
our
and handicapped
best.
too.
No. This guy's beating people by like hours, not minutes, hours. He's just like, oh, I lapped him. I didn't mean to.
Hey,
but
they did call me out on the podium, though. They did say, and sandbagging in first place.
Yeah.
They did.
So all I'm saying is, I don't want to get you in any trouble, but did you roll up into Mobile's comedy scene with 16 years of New York comedy experience and be like, this is my first time?
Yeah, you should have. If you did it, you should
my
have.
very first time.
No, but I did. So I've been pleasantly surprised with the energy of these guys. Now, the most jarring thing was like, I didn't realize how quickly you become the old guy.
Oh yeah.
Right. But I went in there and they had a sign up sheet, and it had been so long since I had done an open mic, you know, back in 2003, you had to, in New York anyway, you had to pay to do the open mics. You'd pay $5 and you'd get to sign up on the sheet. And I actually went up I asked the bartender, I said, who's running this mic? And they said, that guy over there. And I went up to him. Guess I could give him a shout out. Michael Werneth is his name. And he runs one over at the Oyster City Brewery on Tuesday nights. And so I went over to him and I said, hey, is there a sign up sheet? He said, yeah, it's over there. I said, do I pay you? He said, pay me. He's like, no, are you a comic? I was like, yeah. He said, oh no, you get a free beer. But then he like turned and kind of went back to his conversation, which he should have. I'm just this creepy, bald, old white guy. You know, I don't blame him. I'm not blaming him. So
I see this guy trying to kill his bucket list.
Yeah, cool. right. Yeah. He was like, oh, Gramps wants to give it a go. Yeah, he wants to give it a go. He wants to learn some jargon for his grandkids. So, but I got up there and just like uncorked fucking, 4 years of like, just, and so I've done it. And then of course, like they all came up to me afterwards, and this isn't a braggadocious thing, but it's clear that I had done this for some time. you know, and so I got to,
Yeah,
I got to,
you're literally back to sports. You're like sitting in a basketball gym and Jordan just rolls in. He's like, I mean, I haven't shot in like 7 years.
well,
Just-
I mean, to be clear, like there are really bad professional comedians as well. Like, you know, like that, it's not to indicate anything, you know, I think that I'm very, very, very fucking good at stand up and I love it. But I'm not on here trying, like, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, like, they could tell that I at least had a polish to me, right? And so they immediately, you know, like booked me on, you know, 3 or 4 different, like, kind of the professional, you know, not the open mics, the booked shows.
Yeah. So
And
you skipped ranks.
yeah,
You went from unpaid open mic to you skipped barking. You skipped.
I didn't skip it, by the way. I did it. I might have skipped it here in Mobile.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is because the one thing that's fascinating to me about comedy, it's like anything else. Like anything, you can go to certain events and it's like I don't bring up my skill set. I don't have to flex it.
Right.
But when it's time, like everybody sees it. Like clients will say it, or Dale's even seen it now. He's like, dude, I had no idea. Like I see, you know, I've watched him with racing or whatever. But then the people that are chasing what I've already accomplished, they come up to you and you're like, bro, listen, do you got any tips? You know,
Yeah.
How do you do better?
Yeah.
Is that what happened? Did you get elevated?
Yeah. But also, you know, I mean, I'm a good bit older than these guys, and they have like a very young energy, and comedy, you know, the starting point for them is, I mean, I guess I was impressed with these guys and gals. Like, you know, like there's so much content out there for them to absorb and so many different styles. And oftentimes, like I lament that I came through stand up when I did, because kind of like my age group in general, I am such a hybrid between the analog generation and the digital, right? And with stand up, it's very much the same. All of my influences were set up punch guys, right? The alt scene had not been a thing. And it developed even a little bit after I had already established my voice and kind of the way that I carry myself on stage. Now, that's not to say there aren't, you know, I'm a very, it's cathartic for me. And, you know, I kind of turn into a different person. I turn into, I'm highly animated, very physical on stage. And, you know, so in a sense, I was always kind of an outlier, you know, like older comics used to say, hey, why don't you try just standing there and using your words, you know, like why you got to jump around like a dick, you know, like, but that's just part of the performance side of me. I always figured anybody can write a joke, right? But you're a performer, right?
Yep.
So I've noticed since I've been back doing it that like, I don't trust the material as much anymore. Right. And so
Is that from time? Like
just time away from it and just not having written to my voice in a long time. You know, I'm a different person now, but I also lean on the physicality and the energy a little bit much, you know, and I've had to remind myself, hey, go up there and like pull it down a little bit. Remind yourself that you still can.
Do you think that culturally, socially, you've been through a ton of comedic times? Like when you first were coming up, I think it was kind of like no holds barred. There wasn't a ton of internet. There wasn't a ton of clips out there.
Right.
And then it became like, shit, I could say something get canceled.
Right.
And then now it could be, do you think that now people are a little bit like, they feel attacked if you're being physical on stage? Like, not that they're being physical, like emotionally attacked, but like people are really like kind of reserved because social interaction is now digitally. And it's not so much like in person so much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you don't know as I talk with my hands the whole time, but you don't
get it.
You know what does it make sense? Like
it's an interesting thought.
Microaggression type shit.
Yeah. Like people are like standoffish because this dude's like powerful in front of me. And like, we're so much disconnected. Like we text each other rather than talking on the phone a lot. So like now it's like you read words more than you see people talking with their hands or like becoming in front of you, or you're like, wow, this dude's going to jump out here and fight me or something.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind though, I haven't done this with any regularity since 2019.
Yeah, so
so
that's-
these few that I've gone back to are really just people that thought they were going to a bar. It's more like a hostage
Yeah, yeah.
situation than a comedy show at some point, Now there are, Michael, to his credit, has established a little following that continue to go back to that open mic. And it's fun because they're real audience members, not just comedians judging you and wishing you were dead.
Have you ever seen a weird dude in the back just sitting there by himself?
Larry?
No.
If he would have said Bug, I would have lost my mind.
His name is Bug. He always told us that he loves to go to these comedy shows and just sit there and watch. He said when people are bombing, that's when he thinks it's the greatest. Like the cringe.
But he's not a heckler.
No, he's not a
Yeah,
heckler.
yeah.
He just watches.
He just
He
loves.
likes to. He's young though. He's a millennial. He's the one on this podcast at one point.
He's the only one that's ever been edited.
Yeah. He was talking about orange VHS tapes, like Rugrats and stuff, like way younger than our side of things.
Yeah, but he loves to go to those open mics and just
bask in the discomfort.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's masochism at some point, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I don't know that I've noticed him, but
he'd be the creepy one.
You should just shout him out. It's like, there's somebody named Bug here, and he'll be like, "Yep." He'll have a weird mustache.
He's funny.
I feel like I've probably seen him. Everybody down there has a weird mustache.
Don't you think it's kind of strange? I was telling Dale, like, I had to pull up old photos, and I saw pictures of me with a mustache. Do you think it's weird that they're ironically back? Do you feel like that's also the challenge in comedy? So much stuff is like weird, ironic stuff. Like, I have a younger person that works for me, and the stuff that's funny to her is not even close.
Yeah. So the last couple of years that I was I was doing stand up in a major market, either New York or LA. The big thing was roast battles.
Oh yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that was everything. And you see a little bit of that with Kill Tony. Like people really relish in the hostility of it, which has never been my thing. I don't care for the hostility of it all. And, like two people, it'd be like, come to the Tuesday night roast battle. And it's like, nobody knows who you are. They don't know anybody's idiosyncrasies. If you're an audience member, you don't know the things that would be truly like when someone gets roasted by the Friars Club, you know a little bit about their career, all these things. So what you're relegated to when you're forced to stand next to Becky or, Tommy, who, you're making fun of like their handicap or whatever it is. And it's just an exercise in cruelty. So there's that, but then also like the alt comedy scene, to answer your question in a roundabout way, the mustaches, things like that. I had been doing shows in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and skinny jeans and mustaches were kind of the thing for the alt comedy scene. Kind of led the chart. Like Dimitri Martin kind of like started that. There's a really great club, Creek and Cave, in New York, Long Island City, Queens, and that was all about alt comedy, and I never subscribed to it. Part of that generation. I'm a setup punch guy and high energy, things like that. I've morphed more into kind of storytelling, I guess. I enjoy storytelling as a medium. You're not relegated to just one emotion, which would be humor, right? You're allowed to kind of take these journeys, these paths to kind of weave through. And if there's a moment of downtime and self-reflection on stage, all the better for it. So that's kind of an alt comedy concept, that it doesn't have to be take my wife, please, But
it's like, but to me, and I'm not making, I don't care about his politics. I mean, I do, but I'm not making a statement. But like Chappelle is a little bit of a storyteller now. He used to not be, but to me, his comedy has like a.
I was just thinking about him though, because his newest one was more set up punch. The one before that was a very storytelling.
Yeah.
He like went back and forth.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
What's cool? When I was in those barking days, there used to be a club called the Boston Comedy Club, and it was on, I think it was West 3rd, but it might have been McDougal. No, it was on West 3rd Street. And that's where Chappelle started. That was his home club.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so it was the Boston, but it was in Manhattan. And down below the Boston was a pub called, the Baggett Inn. And so when we'd be out passing out flyers, the sun would be going down, and we're talking like 365 days a year. I was out there doing it for like the
Crazy.
first several years. There were some nights that were so cold, like when the Fred Flintstone, Tony Soprano guy, Bloomberg came on the news while we were filling out our cards at like 5 p.m. And he was like, all New Yorkers, don't be outside with exposed skin for longer than 5 minutes. You will get. So we all looked at him. He's like, what the fuck you looking at me for? Get out there.
Oh my
And we could
God.
talk to each other across Times Square. It was so cold, nobody was out there. And I was on 46th and 7th, and my friend was at the TGI Fridays all the way across Times Square, and we could have a conversation.
Wild.
Well, so anyways, when we were doing that one, every time Chappelle would come back, whoever drew the lucky card and got to work the door that night instead of having to pass out the tickets, they'd usually call us on the corners, because we'd be in a 10-block radius, say, hey, Chappelle just came. You're like, fuck, man. So you'd throw your tickets in the garbage and just go sit and watch him because you knew he was going to be there all night.
That's insane.
So he would eat everybody's stage time. But the cool thing is, after the show, they would lock the front door of the Baggett Inn and lock the door of the Boston, and there was a stairwell connecting the two of them. And we go down there, and Chappelle would pay for all the young comics that he bumped.
No way.
Yeah, so we get to hang out with a comedy legend. Ask him questions. We'd get to watch him perform for an hour 15. So it was a win. But a lot of those comics, like at the comic strip on the Upper East Side, Seinfeld, if he bumped you, he'd give you your pay.
Wow.
He'd pay you out of pocket. I mean, it's $15, but he didn't have to do that.
So is it in that space? Is it kind of like it's obviously a respect system.
There's a
that you go
pecking
through.
order, a
There's
very severe pecking order.
Is there so I know a little bit about professional wrestling.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, sports entertainment.
Yeah.
Wrestling. There is a thing inside of there that is called wrestler's court. And if you screw up, and you do something wrong, they call it going into business for yourself. That means you get off the script. Like, you're supposed to win. There's all kinds of stuff. They actually hold wrestlers court. Is there anything of that nature where if you screw up and you mess something up, do other comics get together and they have like a little hearing?
Blackball session?
Well, since Facebook, that there is blackballing that certainly happens, and stealing material. I mean, we all saw what Rogan did to Carlos Mencia. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was kind of the first highly publicized case of that. But yeah, I mean, there would be beef between comedians all the time.
Crazy.
And, people would, once or twice, that's not that big a deal. When it becomes a pattern, then then it would start affecting people's bookings,
And that's just that stuff, that the inside of it, because again, anybody that's ever listened to if you happen to listen to Rogan and it's a comedian, to me, it's not that interesting. This is more interesting because you're answering the questions that they don't talk. They glaze over. You're explaining it. They just go through it.
Yeah.
So
they take for granted that you already know those things.
Yeah, and we don't. And civilians don't know that.
Because he's talking to Rogan and he knows Rogan understands what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's almost like Carney language in some ways. It's like the film business. If we get into film talk, I think you were making jokes on set because we're like, "Hey, Peyton, will you go get me a grip flapper and a couple of shadow sprays and a stretcher?" And you're like, "I don't even know what that means."
Yeah, I left for 10 minutes and came back with a tattoo of an anchor on my arm. I was like, "Is this it?" Like, no, that's not it. All right, whatever. Jack Flapper.
But it's it's like the inside baseball stuff. I just it's fascinating to me just because it's not something that anybody in my normal sphere of life now, but prior to I've never had that ability to have that convo.
Yeah.
Did you in that 16 years? I mean, obviously you worked, you did shows. Were there any crazy highlights from those? The stuff that stands out where you're like, dude, people want to hear a little bit of humble brag.
I've got some, accomplishment wise, I mean, the most, I was able to do stand up on national television. I'm proud of that. I did Gotham Live, hosted by John Lovitz. It's the episode with John Lovitz. Would love to be able to go back in time and do that one again. I canned it a bit, because it was live. It was actually filmed and broadcast live nationally. And, they said, if you cannot go over. And so I was living in LA at the time. I flew to New York for the filming and just worked that set so that I knew every square inch of it. Like I knew it so well. And it was a little bit canned. It was a little bit forced. It was a little bit rushed. But also, John Lovitz went long before he brought me up. And so I got the light from the producer, which if you blow the light, so the light is a big deal in stand-up, right? So blowing the light means they told you it's time to wrap up. Usually it's a 1 minute light, especially for TV. And if you go long on a live taping, then it just cuts to commercial in the middle of what you're saying.
Oh, snap.
So it's not an option to go long, right?
Right.
And I got the light at a place where I knew I shouldn't be getting the light. And so I didn't know. I just had to piece together the closer and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Right.
The other thing that I did, I decided, this is my first TV appearance. I'm going to take a huge risk on this one. And I told a joke that kind of ties into the storytelling thing.
Yeah.
That kills in the Village. It kills in New York because New York is not scared of gay people. And it kills in LA. It's a great joke. And it's defending, it's making a mockery of homophobia. It's talking about like the time that I tried hooking up with a dude and it didn't work. It didn't work. Physiologically, there are men things that didn't work.
Right.
And so I told a buddy of mine, I got, drunk one night. I was like, I hooked up with a dude. Don't be all weird. He's like, oh, we're queer. I said, yeah, but well, now I know how not gay I am. You don't know how not gay you are. Right. And the punchline is until you've hurt a gay man's feelings with your limp penis, perhaps you're gay. So so don't come at me. Like I tried it. Sure. That's pretty gay. Right. But I know now how not gay. And you can't say the same, Bubba. You can't say the same. You can't. Okay. So whenever I tell that joke in New York, with the punchline, which is a little more crass than I just said it, but normally it just, boom. Now I know I'm having watch parties all over Alabama from people. It's like at the end of Pee-wee when he's walking through the drive-in and he's seeing everybody from his little adventure. Like I'm imagining like my brother and his friends that are down here, watching it. My mom having her group of friends and watching it. And I'm like,
Lord.
I said, I got to do it. I got to do it because I'm not going to waste this opportunity and wish that I hadn't been bland on it. So I'm doing this joke. I gave my brother a heads up because he and I were very close, but we're very different. Right. And I was like, hey, there might be a joke in there making me get a little uncomfortable. You might go get some nachos or something. And so I hit the punchline and just crickets. And that joke you needed to hit. I needed it to hit. What I didn't take into account is that for live tapings, for any TV taping, they go out to Times Square and pull everybody from Nebraska,
they're all
Des Moines.
No.
Yeah, man. And so I was where I thought
like, this guy's really gay. That's gay.
Yeah, or just like honey, get your purse, kind of.
Oh, my Lord.
And it just fell flat. And I needed that one. Ooh, I needed that one. So there are things I do different. So you asked me, are there peaks? Yeah, there's a peak. I've done some crazy stuff.
So wait, you had a peak and a valley at the same exact time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's why I kind of feel like it's almost a sport.
It is sport because it's missing the game-winning shot when all you want is the game-winning shot.
Yeah.
The biggest game you've ever played.
And you've trained in the gym
and
for so many hours.
You know this shot's going in. You're just going to take it.
Dude, that gay joke should have crushed, dude.
Yeah.
It felt good coming off the hand. I faded back,
Yes, exactly.
Oh, left the finger so clean.
The cheerleaders were even bound out. They already had it prepared.
Come on. Yeah, they were getting the ice bath ready for me, man. And it clanged off the rim. I'll show it to you one day when you're older. But but then like some other crazy stuff, like being like, 4 a.m. at a Hooters, at a Sammy's with Screech, like hanging out.
So I've seen Dustin Diamond live on Easter Sunday in Cincinnati, Ohio. And the guy I went with had was friends with the owner of the club, so we had these VIP seats, and we go in late, and he's already up there. Dude, he was so funny.
Yeah.
And then we met him afterwards. I didn't realize how big he is.
He's a big dude.
He is huge.
And he was a
Working.
nice guy. I had a
Rest in
bad
peace,
taste
by
in
the
my
way.
mouth,
Rest
but
in peace.
he came in. He was managed by this guy in New York that he was going to be doing a residency at a comedy club, or like several weekends in a row while he was in town in New York. And his agent had put in this rider that was so gross. It was like yellow M&Ms and a brandy glass, all this stuff, and everybody's like, "Fucking Screech, like calm down, Screech." Well, I asked him about it. This was years later, and I'm working with him. This was in Birmingham, and I asked him about it. And I was like, "Dude, you remember when you came to the Laugh Factory in New York?" Or he was like, "Yeah." I said, "Why did Roger put all that stuff in your rider, man? It made you look like such a dick." And he was like, "I know. I always told him that." So what was the point? He said, "If you go ridiculous, then the normal stuff you ask for, they always give you."
Yeah, there's that. And the other side of that is a lot of times the actors will give us crazy writers, and it's so that it's the agent wants to know you read the contract. So by doing that, it seems obnoxious to do it, but you want to do the contract. We experienced it firsthand. Like, we made a joke that we wanted 2 mildly warm bottles of Dasani water and yellow M&Ms or whatever it was.
Yeah,
and we
you screeched him.
We did screech.
And we showed up to a mountain bike event, and the dude literally had all that stuff set up. And shout out to Dirty Uncle Chase for doing it. But like, he listened to the podcast, and we were making a joke, but he listened, and he wanted to acknowledge that he paid attention to what we had to say. That's the old rumor on my side. And my side of it, would get all kinds of weird stuff that's nuts.
That's crazy. I
won't say who it was, but like, the weird thing to me is just like, because you've dealt with agents, the weird stuff. So there's an actor in a movie I made, and that's all I'll say, which one, and I won't tell you who, but they would receive magazines on the regular, like boxes of magazines, right? And they were like Cosmos and all this kind of stuff. Well, turns out the magazines inside of them had a fake insert, and that fake insert had a variety of different drugs that had been turned into a powder that she could wet and rehydrate. Saw it firsthand, real stuff. And so that's how she was, because I have no drug policy on my sets. If you go off set and you guys want to go smoke weed, that's their deal. But while we're working, there's no, I will fire you on the spot. I don't even care. I'll figure it out. And this person was able to do that.
Well, what a lot of effort, first of all, but
hardcore parkour.
Second of all,
it wasn't coke. It was something else.
Yeah, but it would seem that, like, her telltale is going to be her behavior, right? That's what's going to clue you off. So you're not going to search their pockets.
Yeah, you couldn't really tell. Like, they were necessarily like the sharpest tool on the shed all the time anyway. So
yeah,
you go this route.
But I'm saying you didn't have your policy in such that, I mean, you reserve the right to fire them if they appear to be incapacitated or not professional.
It's also technically problematic.
Right. No, I understand why you do it, but I'm saying
it's the other way. What if I'm on week 3 of week 4 of 4 weeks?
Yeah, because then you got to cut everything you already did.
Right.
And you don't have Paul Walker fake AI body.
I don't have. Horst was not on that movie. He did that.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But you weren't going to frisk her. You weren't going to go through her dressing room
afterwards because someone informed me. Because
that's nuts.
It was wild. It was the wildest thing. It was like, why? Why does
she love National Geographic?
Yeah, it was. I like a long boob as much as the rest of us, but I didn't know she was getting her fix out of it.
Come on. At what point have you not, as a young man, there was 2 magical moments that came from the mailbox when I was a kid. At first, it was the Sears catalog.
Sure.
Every once in a while, there was a risque little. Instead of they're all coney back then.
And they had the toys.
Very coney
too, so we're good.
Right.
Double dose.
I could see some boobies and the next G.I. Joe set.
That was the equivalent of like the previous channel button when it started coming out on the remote, and you'd be watching Cinemax. Parents would come in and you hit previous channel. So you're looking at the Sears catalog. You got the underwear, and then mom walks in. Boom! I'm on Tonka trucks.
Yeah. You can't trash with me. But then, as it got more sophisticated, Dale's homie up in wherever he's from up that way, you worked for him, Victoria's Secret guy.
Oh, yeah, Lex.
Yeah.
Wexner.
When that dude rolled out the Victoria's Secret catalog,
yeah.
Now you made perverts out of all of us, because that would show up in the mailbox and I'd be like, why my mom's getting Victoria's Secret? It's gross. I don't want to think about it. I love you, Mom. It's just gross.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
that was some good.
Yeah, Victoria's Secret was, and then same guy rolled out the ANF Quarterly, which had full nudes.
Wait, who's this guy? I mean,
Abercrombie Limited. He owns Les Wexner. He
oh, okay.
he
That
owns.
chick wrote a song about him. That
Yeah, dude.
He's a buddy of yours?
no.
Oh, he's
yeah,
just
Dale's real close to him. Spends a lot of time.
No, he owns Express, Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie.
Oh, okay,
Hollister.
okay. This is a
I worked
famous...
at Abercrombie's corporate office.
Okay, that's where
Yeah,
that
you
was
got
why the
disconnected.
nod came to you. I was
Sorry,
like,
that was
Yeah.
one of those unfortunate for you. You just got inside baseball.
Yeah,
I
yeah. So
apologize.
no, I love
I
it.
should've
I love
brought
it.
you in.
I've actually since that whole
Thought it was
I've
like
tried
your
to
boy
block him.
Lex really has a nice collection of
Yeah.
1990s
No.
Victoria's Secret catalogs. I'm like, wow, Lex.
He probably does actually.
Huh?
I'm trying to distance myself from that time in my life because little did I know that Jeffrey Epstein had a house at Wexner's house
Oh.
at the same time I was working there.
Ah,
No, I was nowhere near it, but yeah,
Ah.
I was just a little peon in the company. But,
sure.
you know, 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Is that what
Yeah,
it is?
7 degrees of sleazy.
Yeah, sleaziness.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Tons.
Not from you, but well, I don't know.
What is
No.
what is your take now on like where comedy is? Because like obviously, and I don't want it to be a political side of it, and I'm not anti woke or pro woke. I don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think it's weird that some people that there has become this sort of like woke versus anti woke thing that people like Rogan brings it up, but other comedians are talking about? Do you think it's weird that it even needs to be talked about? Because comedy is a reflection of sometimes individual ideas. If it's storytelling, you might like Seinfeld did a very brilliant thing. What's with the deal with, he would just point out something common and
Mm-hmm.
point out. Don't you think it's kind of weird? Like at the times, comedy kind of just like music follows the times that we're going through. I mean, I imagine comedy in the 60s was probably maybe a little more anti-war and probably following that side, or the polar opposite of that. It's
And
not
we had
gonna
a
sit in the
million
middle.
COVID jokes for 5 years.
Well, the
Yeah, true.
as far as the woke and anti-woke, like I don't know. I don't really know where I fall on that. I do know I lament that there are comedians that are just like you. I firmly believe you can say anything you want if you make it funny, clever, and something that's relevant. But just being mean spirited, that kind of goes back to that whole thing. And I'm no prude, man. Like I am not. I love comedy. I'm not. I never clutch my pearls and say, "Oh dear, oh,
Right.
that's too far." It's not that. It's like, where's the funny in that, man? Like, and then they oftentimes want to hide behind the fact that, hey, this is the last bastion of the First Amendment. I'm a comedian. I'm allowed to do. No, you're a comedian. You're required to make it funny, right?
Yeah.
And so
That's in the
this
job description.
yeah, it's and so I think oftentimes this back and forth that goes on. I saw somebody on Facebook, and I never engaged with this stuff, but there was some girl that bills herself as the most banned comic in New York, right?
Marketing.
Yeah,
just
sure,
marketing.
sure. And she is fully, she tweets incendiary things and she puts these ideas out there. I don't care that it's offensive. I care that it's not funny.
Right.
But she's getting exactly what she wants, which is engagement and notoriety. And I think it's less to do with the sign of comedy and more to do with the way that we ingest media and the way that it is rewarded now. And, back when I was starting out, your job was to get an audition for the Montreal Comedy Festival. And if you got to Montreal and didn't just, vomit on stage, you were getting a sitcom deal. Well,
Whoa.
I mean, that's what Montreal was back all the way up until about like 2001, 2002, until reality television came along, destroyed the sitcom because the budget was nothing to make reality TV.
Yeah.
But back in the day, if you got to Montreal, you got a deal. Well, now, it's a blessing and a curse because the power has been taken away from a select few. You could say the same thing about the film industry. This gear that you have in here can film just as good as any of the cameras at the MGM lot, at any given point. So the power has been taken away from the agents and the casting directors and the script supervisors, all of that. You can create amazing content based on stuff that you can order offline and have delivered to your home. the other side of it is that there is so much saturation that you have to do something bizarre to make any kind of name. And now that it's all measured in the algorithm and those things that are rewarded, which are clicks, likes, and minutes stayed on, the only thing human beings are guaranteed to enjoy as a group is confrontation and discomfort and shaming people, all negative traits of our society. So, I don't think that where we are as a people, what's funny, what's not funny, I don't think that really has much to do with it. I think people are engaging in those battles because that is the market now. And, some people that sell out and call people queer and hateful things, and, they're doing it not because they just have the right to say it and that's their point of view. It's because they know it's going to get clicks.
It's so I'm with you on it. In fact, it's very well said. I've always viewed it as it's yelling fire in the theater, right?
Sure. Which is
Against the
like
law.
that was always the one, but on the First Amendment, right? You can't say fire in a theater. Right.
But the reality of it is now people do, because fire in the theater gets you a click, a like, a look, whatever it is. And so it's almost like, I don't care how offensive the joke is. Because, I mean, listen, I've listened to Kill Tony says some heinous stuff. They get away with some stuff that's wildly inappropriate. And sometimes I laugh, sometimes I don't. It depends on where I do laugh is they can say the most heinous thing in the world, but if it's connected with a through line of a little bit of a narrative, and even if it's poking fun, but it's poking fun in a way that does a callback, so it closes the loop, then it's funny as hell to me. But if it's just like calling somebody a name to call them a name, that's fire in the theater. There's no point in saying that.
Shock value.
That's
it.
Dumb.
Yeah.
It's the same problem I had with Howard Stern for years. He would say random heinous stuff. I didn't grow up in Stern country. You did. But like, it just didn't work for me. Just saying, like, it's the same with any radio shock.
Well, what happened when he went to XM? He became irrelevant because suddenly you're allowed to curse. Yeah, suddenly you're allowed to have, it's not taboo, right? Yeah. And that's when Stern became irrelevant because the whole theater was screaming fire.
Right.
They sang it as a chorus.
Yeah.
Do you think though that comedy, it's a performance 100%, and the comedians, that's their identity, so like they could have that on stage all day, do this whole performance and walk off and be a normal person, like not a normal, what I'm saying, like, well, that's they're not they're not even
on a performance.
That's what I'm saying. That's not even their view or their opinion. It's just funny.
Oh, I don't think that's sustainable. That's not sustainable. But in terms of demeanor, right? Like you will never get far as a comedian if you are not speaking your authentic thoughts.
Okay.
Right now, the way you speak them might be different, but I mean, I think y'all will both agree. Like, I'm usually quite meek. I tend to approach everybody with like a quiet, understated thing. That is not what I'm known for on stage. Like on stage, I'm extremely different. And it's not because that's not who I am. It's just, I have different insecurities in day to day that I don't have when I'm up there. It all goes
like
away.
A UFC fighter or an athlete, the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, sure.
There's things like I'm not getting up on a stage to do stand up, but I can stand in front of 10,000 people and play basketball.
Right. I could not do that.
So it's just a practice.
I've taken a like at the driving range, if anybody stands next to me, like
I can't even do that at the toilet. I can't. I won't go to an unwalled urinal. If I see an unwalled urinal, I suddenly have to take a crunch.
It's always those dude. There's always that guy with suspenders on and his hands on his lower back, standing up beside those.
Oh, listen, that and the dude that free pees. Let's just call that free peeing, right?
Yeah.
You mean hands free?
Yeah, hands free.
Yeah,
right? He's Bluetoothing it. If a dude's Bluetoothing it at a trough, I'm so out, bro. Yeah. Like, you can't Bluetooth at a trough. That's no.
Yeah, no Bluetoothing at the trough.
That's the worst. And it's not because I want to see his junk or not see his junk. It doesn't matter to me. It's just the concept of like, I feel uncomfortable and vulnerable in a place that I'm not okay with.
Sure.
Right.
And he's flying a little too fast and loose.
Oh,
for my liking. And if you're troughing, you're at a bar anyway.
Or you're at a Bama football game.
Oh,
Well, yeah, but the point is, it's where alcohol is being. I'd say most Bluetoothers are a little, deep, a little drunk, right? And so you're a hiccup away from a splash up.
yeah.
Put a hand on your put a hand on that thing.
Well, the other side of it
Leash
is,
your dog.
if you're leash your dog.
Yeah.
If you're at a bar and there's a trough, you've been drinking beer, which means this isn't just a couple of drizz and you're out. This is like the long flow process.
Yeah.
Right?
But not so long that you can't hold it. Hold your wiener.
You can hold your wiener. It's not a fire hose.
Just place a finger. Place a finger on your. Place a finger on it. Something to keep it. Just let me know you're in control of this thing.
Yeah, Jesus, take the wheel.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's well done.
Oh, that's great.
So one of the things that we did is we reached out to our audience we got some questions.
We did
because we thought it would be fun because not many people have a chance to talk to.
Oh yeah,
much less a comedian, much less you, someone who's eloquent and friendly.
I rapid fired them, our fan base, and said, "You got 30 minutes. Give me a question."
Okay.
So we're gonna read you some questions.
Sure. Yeah.
That actually. Shout out to our friends because you guys came up with some really good questions.
Yeah, because they're stupid as shit most of the time.
I got to tell you, this is like the
Dale said that. I wasn't on camera for it.
This is the one subject that I know. Look, I don't know everything. I'm not saying like I am some like godsend to comedy, but this was such a major part of my life, and it's what I feel most comfortable about. That like I have no problem answering any questions about it, and there are a few things in life I can say that about.
I kind of feel like when I was a kid, there was this show that would come on Fox where and they got in a lot of trouble where the magician would show you how they do the tricks.
Yeah. He'd wear that mask.
Yeah, I feel like that's what we're into, except this is the last episode and he's taking the mask off and we revealed who it is. And like, we're about to learn all the carny knowledge. Well,
look, comedy has become such a pop culture phenomenon that I would think that any of my former colleagues or, this new, like Shane Gillis would hear me talk and be like, who the fuck is this guy?
Right.
You know what I mean? But like, I paid my dues. I did it the right way and I did it for a long time and I was good at it. So I don't know. There's a part of me that still feels a strong connection to that community, but all of the vitriol about it, I don't identify with like I don't know. I'm a recovering comedian. I got like some weird feelings about all of it.
No, it's good. That's
anyways.
Good.
Yeah.
So I have a question of my own, but I'll save it until after all these because you might answer it with some of these.
Sure.
So I'm literally going to read them word for word just so they get their actual shout out.
Maybe not the GPT thing.
No, I don't read all word for word.
Yeah.
All right. So this is coming from Mr. Toby Cortez.
Former sponsor of the show.
Former sponsor, yeah. He has a great mountain bike skills service. When has life ever been funnier than your show?
Well, I mean, the reality is like the shows, I'm not laughing during the show. Right. So like, life is the show, like, that's the material and that sort of thing. But, the secret of comedy, like even crowd work is something that you've said 1,000 times. Even these things that you think are off the top of your head, that's the goal, is to make it seem like this is coming off the top of your head. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you're just riffing and you hit on something. That's why you record every single show that you do, because inevitably you'll be like, what the fuck was that? I can't remember. All of that to say, like, life is always funnier than the show. The show is like about, getting your point of view across, and you're constantly whittling that point of view across to get all I'm focusing on is my interaction with the audience. Right. But the stories all come from the ridiculousness of life.
Right.
100%.
Cool. That's a great answer. And I lost it. Hold on. We're coming back. All right. So Kyle Butcher, longtime listener, not first time caller.
Nope.
Shout out, Kyle.
Well, Kyle.
He's a film guy too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Given
cool.
the chance to audition for The Daily Show, what would be your opening segment?
Man, so in the weeks after the election, I'm not a bleeding heart liberal, but I am not a fan of President Trump or his cabinet, especially, right? So, the idea of the Daily Show is extremely compelling to me. I went through a phase, when you start off with stand-up, you get the low-hanging fruit, the dick jokes, sex jokes, fart jokes, things like that.
Bluetooth jokes.
Yeah, right. Because they're easy to write and they always work, lowest common denominator or whatever. But then I went through a phase after that where if it wasn't, Bill Hicks-esque, if it was not socially relevant, if it was not politically astute, if it was not making a commentary in the vein of George Carlin, I didn't want to do it. I didn't think that it was worth anybody's time. What are we up here doing? I am blessed with a microphone and I'm going to use it to better mankind. And, in New York, I guess probably 1 out of every 6 shows I would get a standing ovation. The rest of it, it was just kind of people like, we're sick of talking and hearing about this shit. We came here to laugh, like, get on with it. So that lasted about 3-4 years. And then I just went back to having fun. And that's still where I am. And it's, I'm not afraid to go into that territory. To get on the Daily Show and to have such a focused thing, I would personally, my first segment would have to be on, like kind of the ridiculousness, the hypocrisy of everything that I feel is going on within the current administration, and, basically try and find a way. I don't know. It's like a Schadenfreude thing that I feel about the people who, and it's not all of them. My brother is not racist. He's not hateful, but there are so many people that they weren't looking out for when they voted for that, and kind of seeing it bite some of them in the ass. I don't mean to laugh, but it's pretty fucking funny to me. Like these employees that are like, what's the thing? The leopard ate my face. Have you heard that expression? Oh. It's like, it's an expression about like the lady couldn't believe that the leopard ate her face.
Oh, right.
There's some kind of thing, and and you'll see it on a lot of tweets and things like that, where it's like, sorry, lady, the leopard got you. Yeah. And I don't know. That would be what I would do, and I assume he's asking about the Daily Show. I mean, that is a politically current event driven medium. So I don't know how they write about anything else right now, and they don't for the most part.
Well, this changes the whole tune of the whole topic. Mm-hmm. Because this is coming from
6.5
Carrie. No, totally opposite Inches. Of that.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is totally opposite.
So this is reading word for word because Carrie is a lesbian. Mm-hmm. So she says, best lesbian
shalom.
Joke. Best lesbian joke because I need a new one. My lick-a-lot-of-puss is old.
God, did I have a...
That's why I'm saying word for word, because that is not from me. It's from Carrie.
Yeah, no, Carrie. Yeah. Oh. I think that I did have a thing for lesbians. No, I had a thing about lesbians. It's very ironic that men are infatuated with lesbians. It's like the one group that doesn't like men.
Yeah, it's true.
But if you like one woman, what's better than one too, right? And I do have a theory on this. Why is it that men are infatuated with lesbians, however females are not infatuated with two men?
Right.
And I know why, right? Because I think when it comes to two women, like kind of and I don't never been privy to gay women's sex, but there's a softness to it that encourages and leans into femininity, which is what men find attractive about women in the first place, as to where two men, one of them is having to be getting fucked, basically, right? And that kind of runs counter to the concept of what masculinity is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not so much as a joke. I wouldn't open with that one. Don't close or open with new material.
And Kyle, that was also your answer. So there you go.
Yeah.
So what's a joke? This is from Jennifer, our friend Jennifer in Louisiana.
Rip her arm.
Yeah. R.I.P. your shoulder. What's a joke you thought would kill but totally bombed, and how did you recover?
Well, the gay one on live television was certainly one. I mean, I jokingly said a second ago, don't open with that one. There's an adage in stand-up that you never open or close with new material. And that's always hard for comedians because we're sick of our sets. And when you write something that you're very excited about, you can't wait to get it out there, right? But you can't open with it because you don't want to set the tone of your set. You want to establish who you are, let them know that you have the right to be up there. And then you can take more risks and then work in new material. Mm-hmm. So, the idea of like, what joke have you ever told that you thought would do well? Like normally you don't approach any joke. Every once in a while, you'll pick the pin up and say, oh, that's it. That one's ready to go. Like that one's ready in the shop. Let's go. But for the most part, it is a long drawn out process to get a joke. So bombing is not a deterrent from continuing to do it. That just means you didn't find the right way to say it. So there have been premises or premisi or however you would say it that premisu
something.
Yeah.
There's been some shit.
There are these ideas that I have that I've never quite been able to figure out how to do it. Right. And that's why I get fascinated when I have an opportunity to do things with y'all. Right. Like here, all of a sudden, the same thing with TikTok. I found that there are all these ways that I can with it film, which I had never experimented or been a part of or anything. I've done a few movies, but just as an actor, dumb actor. But, I found that there are ways to communicate humor that are not available to you as a comedian, as a stand-up comedian with multimedia. And suddenly these premises that are just can't find out how to do it. There's a new life to it. And I look forward to that part of my creativity, becoming more developed over time. God, I need to shut the fuck up. Have you ever have you ever just talked so much and you're like, shut the fuck up, me?
Yeah, that's my daily occurrence.
Oh my God.
Ask Dale Boyd.
Sorry,
I live in that zone.
I hadn't been able to nerd out on this stuff in a minute.
It's great. I love it.
We love it.
Yeah.
This is
well, we can. I mean, Eric. We got an Eric Hagen question.
Oh, those are always quality.
No, I'm not tired of doing it. I just
this
feel like
is a great
everybody's
question.
gonna be like, God, this guy talks a lot.
This is a great question because he's our not stand-up comic that masquerades.
He's
as a
one of those
stand-up
funny
comic.
guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, bro, have you ever tasted a sweeter dick than mine?
Is that what he wrote?
Literally the question. That's the question.
I don't know, but I'll look forward to finding out.
No,
Did we already cover
Where,
this?
we could have come full circle and been like, I tried gay once.
Yeah. No, well, I'm trying to figure out, is there something I should know? Is there a backstory?
I don't know.
We don't know. That's
We don't
just
know.
a
That's
random. That
that's
almost
the
feels like a
question.
hack.
It's a hack. He's got hack. That was an AI question.
Oh,
But I have a question though that you didn't answer. So because of the podcast, I stopped listening to mountain bike podcasts when we were in that angle in that realm. If I'm doing a graphic design thing, I don't Google anything because I don't want influence.
100%. Yeah.
So when you're doing stand up, how hard it you can't possibly watch other stand up, right?
I have a hard time with it, especially now that I've stepped away from it. My soul aches when I see it, right? Because I need to be up there.
But I mean, to not.
Yeah. So when I first started out, and this is really going to date me, but I was compared to Dane Cook a lot.
Oh, dude, Dan Cook's the best.
Well, he was the rage in circa 2K3, right? And 2003, he was everything. And, I just got so excited up there and would just, kind of get in kind of in people's faces. And so I stopped paying attention to anything Dane Cook was doing because I didn't want those comparisons.
Right.
And, writing for stand-up, sometimes you'll have a joke pop into your head or a punchline that you didn't see before. And you're like, holy shit, that is so perfect that I must have heard it before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And, or anytime you come up with an idea,
I have to Google it though.
You have to Google it.
Idea, I have to Google it.
Yeah, because and so the mind is so good at cognitive shortcuts, right? So who knows where you would have stored that little nugget, and you've seen it and you've been influenced, but you forgot about the rest of it, and next thing you know, you're a hack, right? And so I think anybody that is dependent on their own creativity has to remove themselves from inundating their,
especially not with AI. It's even worse because you can shortcut everything.
Oh, and you find yourself thinking about sweet tasting dicks.
Apparently,
You know, AI is coming after us.
well done.
I think that, but maybe that's why you enjoy hanging out with us in our area or craft show, because you're putting yourself in different situations that you could find funny in.
I just relish y'all's energy and, you know, the creative process that y'all embrace. You know, it's awesome. Y'all's team is, and this isn't me blowing sunshine up your skirts, like y'all's energy, it just reminds me of what I always loved about creating. And, you know, it's why I've offered to be a gaff that day or whatever. Is that the term?
Yeah.
Grip.
Grip.
Yeah. You know, that's where I met you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, you know, I've done, you know, SAG films and been on the other side and things like that. But it's like, if I want to be around these people in that energy, I gotta get yelled at by that dude. What was that dude's name? He's mean.
Bernie.
Bernie was mean.
It's funny because you know, one of the things that when we first started this podcast, we were talking about mountain bikes, and then we were like, well, we really want to talk about community, and that's what we drilled on for a while. And inadvertently, we still end up talking about to some extent. Is there a community inside of comedy? Like, is there a community there, or is it a lot of infighting? Like, how is that community? Like even here, you found these people. Is that a community now of people, or what is that situation like?
When I first started doing stand-up, I used to look at all the other comics at that place, that I was telling you about, which was not a very reputable club. In fact, it was quite the opposite. But I used to listen to the older comics bitching and moaning at the bar after everything. I'd say to them, why are y'all so mad about everything? Look at what we got to do tonight. You got to do 8 shows tonight. And they'd say, just wait. That never did happen to me. I never did get that jaded thing. But I always was bothered by the fact that I had very few close friends in stand-up.
Yep.
And it feels like some of them would form cliques. They definitely would form cliques. And with a few exceptions, there are some guys that I'm still, you know, really close with. Most of the really good people didn't fuck with it, though. They were cool with everybody. You know, a confidence in your own ability and where you're going really kind of eradicates the need for anything except for focus.
Yeah.
And so while there are cliques, you know, those fall away. The more famous and successful people get, usually the nicer they are. Not as a people,
That's the thing you said yesterday.
but those people just tend to rise to the top because it's that I'm not quite there. I need a friend. I need to just kind of team up. We need to take this person down. If you have confidence in your ability, you know, you're going to you carry yourself in a different way, I think.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday. We were cutting through Spring Hill, and we were like on Hillwood. So, and there was this house, and this house is gorgeous, and the fountain out front that this lady has was like $40,000 or something. Very expensive fountain.
Did you stop and ask her?
No, we were filming it for a
it.
client.
Oh, okay.
And
She
so-
came and told us.
Yeah, right.
But
40,000.
she was like, I told Dale, I was like, she's so wealthy that she's hit that point of like, she doesn't have to be a butthole anymore. Like she's so wealthy. She's not a snob. She was she knew every single, we're there with the owner. She knew every single person that touches her fountain to clean it, because it has to be cleaned. It's a sculpture.
By first name and
Knows them all, right? And
Sure.
cares enough to know that. You don't have to take that on, but she did.
Right.
I was like, Dale, there's a point when you hit that level. It's the same with confidence. Like, there's a point when you hit that level where you're just like, I don't have to flex.
Right.
There's no reason to flex.
Right.
I can sandbag like you guys, apparently.
Yeah. Well, there is some, you know, quiet confidence. You know, I don't think you can fake quiet confidence. You can fake loud confidence.
Yeah.
But you can't fake quiet confidence.
There you go.
I think that the louder some people are, the more I'm like, you ain't shit.
100%.
Especially in sport.
Well, look at any drunk guy trying to fight at the bar.
Yeah.
Right? They're the ones that are like, hold me back, bro. Hold me back, bro.
Yeah.
And, you know, like the bad motherfucker in there isn't paying any attention to you.
Well, you
He's-
always see the story. It's some somber-looking old dude that turns out he's an ex-Navy SEAL because that guy's seen more shit than you ever have, and he doesn't
Yeah.
have to say squat.
yeah, he doesn't have time
He
for
just
this
sits.
nonsense.
Yeah, it's the dude sitting at the end of the bar drinking a Miller High Life with cauliflower ear that you got.
Yeah, right.
Watch your back for.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the first thing I do. Is whenever I walk into a bar, first thing I
Find
do
the
is
dude.
like, turn a little bit for me.
Yeah.
He's fine. Oh shit, that guy's
Yeah.
over here. I'm not-
Which has gotten my ass kicked for that a few times. Let me feel your ear.
yeah.
So wait, how deep down the gay route did you go?
Full Bluetooth.
Full Bluetooth. He helicoptered
Yeah.
his Bluetooth.
A helicopter Bluetooth.
Now we're getting a little. That's too messy for me.
No,
A little too messy.
I should hope so.
Can't handle it. So just for posterity of closing out a podcast with the shitty closing out of a podcast, where are you performing next, Peyton?
Uh,
I've always kind of wanted to say that. It was kind of cool.
yeah, I've always wanted to have an answer. No, normally this is how I close out every podcast that I have, and I haven't been on a podcast in so long, and I don't have anywhere that I'm going to be.
You're not going to do an open mic or anything?
Yeah, I'll probably will. My wife isn't totally on board with it, which is odd. Like that makes it difficult.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's
A
some
little
jokes in there,
documentarian
though.
to me goes,
Oh,
let's
well.
reel that in a wee bit.
Well, she has very little interest in, like, comedians have a hard time sustaining relationships, period, and then, like it's a hard life being on the road, and being on the road until you
right.
make it is the only way to make it lucrative. And even then, it's not an easy, it's, you're poor until you're not. And then you've got it made once you kind of cross that threshold. But it's you do it for the love of it until then, right? So my wife,
My wife.
we're talking about starting a family, things like that. And so whenever I go to do an open mic, she's like, you're not getting back into this again, are you? Like, I thought we were done with this. Like, and she didn't know me as a comedian. We met when I moved back home.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It really sets up a
It's an old
fantastic
girlfriend.
movie.
Yeah,
which
right.
it's like you're sneaking out at night, the baby's
Mistress.
asleep, and you're sneaking out at night to go do stand up.
Yeah.
And it turns into this whole like, is he cheating on me? And it's
Yeah.
really just like,
But
no,
he
I
has
just
an
need to tell
alter
jokes.
ego that no one actually knows who his real identity is.
Yeah.
He's like
That's
the
right.
Superman or Batman of
Right.
Yeah,
comedy.
he just puts on some glasses, and for some reason people don't
no one
recognize him.
recognizes him.
Yeah.
He's the Clark Kent.
I don't know, honey. I just need something long and black in front of my face. The microphone.
I was like,
I kind of want to end it on that.
Yeah.
And just be like, no explanation. I would do it too.
No, so I don't know where I'm going to be next. You can catch him tomorrow during the day selling hospice care around Mobile.
Yeah, I was going to go into that, but it's so heavy that I was like, that's just.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I love hospice care.
It's you're unique in your. My nose is totally stopped up for some reason. You're unique in your comedic approach, but it's also mind blowing to me that you deal with people that are.
The skill set is surprisingly congruent.
Oh, interesting.
100%. It's the ability to connect with people, to talk real to them, because just like stand up, like you were talking, the true voice, if you're not using your true like feelings when you're talking to somebody in a dire situation, they see right through it. And same thing with an audience. So to be able to pivot, think on your feet, say what they need to hear, regardless, you might have a set list laid out, but you're going to pivot off of it. I don't know. I enjoy it. Good people, usually.
Got anything else?
no, I'm good.
I'm killing it.